Fred PatchBay. What's up, man? How are you doing? Ooh,
Yeah, all good, man. All good. Happy, very happy to be participating.
uh,
Really nice idea. Really nice for the whole community. As when we spoke before, I think this is a great add-on to everybody who's not playing now, not going to parties, to be able to have this contact with the artists and the production and discuss ideas, send them their tracks is also a great idea, man.
thank you very much, man. I can't say it was my idea like fully because well, like actually it was a friend's idea. Like I said it in a few podcasts. He's around sometimes. His name is Sulik. He was going to be the mascot of this situation. Like he was gonna be like around there, like doing like mayhem and nonsense. Like in the middle of the. Like maybe
That's good.
but he's moving houses now, so he's like very very busy. But maybe eventually we'll rearrange some stuff. What's up, It X? Hello, chat. What's up? Are you a bot or you a real person? Are you actually, Fred? Are you on Twitch? Like because you can. Well, you should probably get on the Twitch stream. Yeah, like so, if you want to go and get on the Twitch stream on your computer, like not on the phone, yeah, the phone just leave it there, but on your computer because there we're gonna be listening to the tracks there.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah, no, I forgot to mention that right, like on the setup.
No problem.
So yeah, what's up, man? Tell us a little bit about you. What's how's it? Like what's PatchBay all about? Like, tell us about all your projects that you have. Like, what you've been doing this in this career of yours. There is
Man,
Litx. It's your fan. I'm not sure if you go to Twitch, you can see the chat, and you'll be able to see the reply to your comments if you have a Twitch account.
I'm gonna log in, man.
Hey, Sabers. What's up to Sweden from Mexico? Where are you located now, man? Like for people to know.
Right now, I am in Brazil. I've been staying a lot in California as I do some RV, virtual reality, some VR sound design
Oh,
for
killer.
games. And this is a strong part of why I started exploring more synthesis than actually composing music lately.
Killer.
But it all started when I was a kid, man. I used it to walk around with Brazilian vinyls under my arms, ask people to play them when I get to their houses and start dancing. It's been like this since I was 3 years old. Then I started drawing, painting, doing stone sculpture, and all this stuff my family always supported. Um, and finally, it drove me to stop having this relationship with music until when I was 12 years old. Someone taught me to play "Wish You Were Here" from Pink Floyd on the guitar, and that changed my path completely. Right there, I never drawed again or painted. I just wanted to learn more music, and I think I told you that before. Sepultura is from my city, and
Oh,
here, and there was a strong heavy metal culture. I started my little bands when I was 12 already, and so I went on until 14 years old when I figured my guitar teacher, he had a drum machine, and he didn't need the rest of the band. Basically, he could play the bass and the melody on the guitar, and he could play the drums, and he could compose the whole thing by himself.
oh,
So I started checking on things like that, uh, options to be able to compose alone. But at the time, I had a small 6-channel mixer with low and high per channel and panning and volume, and a cassette recorder. I had a bass line, a bass, and I had a guitar. My sister had a keyboard. She was studying keyboard at the time,
like this
so I
mixer.
could even simpler, man. If I find it here, I can show you. It's a Brazilian mixer from the time,
Anybody
but like that,
anybody
no
wants a
faders.
mixer?
That's a good deal, man. It's great stuff. And
Just here in the
I used
background.
to produce
Sorry.
instruments. So the drum machine came to add a much larger possibility for me to create by myself.
Of course.
And from that point on, I started looking into drum machines, and I figured there was actual groove boxes where you could make a bass line, filter it, and make drums and filter them and separate them on stereo and stuff like that with the TR-808 sounds and things like this from Roland, from Bose, which was a Roland company.
Yeah.
And so I started digging into that. When I was 14 years old, I got a small groove box where I could make one bass and 12 percussions. And with that, the guitar, the keyboard of my sister, and the 6-channel mixer, and the cassette, I started my producing studio. Many years later, like 3-4 years later, I was 18, 19, started making parties, trance parties here. Because after listening to techno and trance, I was driven into psytrance. And so as I started looking into that style, I made parties. Yage, Ninad, and Ragini came to play in my party together with Swarup, Ekanta. This 99, and Ninad stood at my place, and he was learning Logic from Rictam and Banzi from GMS in Alto Paraíso at the time. So he could manage, and he was also coming from a band, then Groovebox history. So he could relate to me exactly what I was doing on a Groovebox, how I could do it on a program. And within one night, composing a chill out track, he managed to teach me everything I needed to know about Logic.
Wow.
And so after that, a few years later, Belo Horizonte started to exist in the map of psytrance internationally, and artists were coming to play here. And at the time, Daniel, that makes Puzzle, a good friend of mine for a long time, he used to host the artists in his studio. And so he had Eskimo, Shanti, GMS, many Israeli artists, and they were all making tracks with us and teaching us things in his studio with a pair of NS10s, M-Audio sound card, and at the time, a super groundbreaking Virus C. and yeah, that's how it all drove me to here, where now I have, I don't know how many psychedelic music projects, to be honest. There is one called The Alkaloids that makes Psy-Chill. There's one called Yubaba that makes some more loungy dub, psychedelic chill.
Wow.
There is PatchBay making Full On. There is Microdose making Forest. Recently, some nice releases in Omveda, in Parvati. I'm making collaborations with Antonymous, with Faco, with many really interesting artists for me at the moment. And not enough in my plate. A month ago, I sped up a track, decided that I should make some high tech, and started a new project called Macrodose.
Yeah.
The Macrodose, released in the Multidimensional Records from Mexico with Arsec, which is an artist I also really admire. It's great music. And I had a lot of help from Heiko and these guys who started the high tech in order to understand some concepts and some flexibilities that the style gives to you. And now I'm having fun on that also, you know. Mainly working on faster BPMs lately.
No, I mean, well, high tech is something that I've tried, you know, and it's not. I just can't. You know, I just everything feels like it's out of time because it probably is, you know, like out of time a little bit, and then you just need to be really, really tight with your timing, right? But it's yeah, it's something like my brain can't handle that speed for a long time. Like I'm just, yeah, I'm from Mexico.
Yeah.
What's up?
I'm getting used to it. The first time I heard fast music for like long periods were at the Boom. I believe in 2008 or 10. It was like a full night, like 14 hours of super fast music. And at the time, it didn't make me dance at all. It made sense to me in terms of psychedelic sounds, like when you listen to Pink Floyd in your sofa. And later on, I I was a bit more flexible in the BPMs as Forest started to catch my ears. So 150 became okay, 155 okay, 160 for me now it's not fast still, and then going up to 180 or something like this was not such a big step, you know.
The chat is just rolling, man. Someone just told me to grow some balls. I think you know who it was. It's Electric Seed. You know Electric Seed.
Yeah. Chile.
Felipe.
Also modular freak.
Pinche cabrón.
I'm in trouble to log in here, man. That's why I'm not in yet.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, man, I think you know like actually on high tech, you know, everything has to be on time, but like sometimes you can use like the 32s and this kind of like, you know, weird like not rhythmic kind of stuff and still get away with it, you know, and that's like very very cool of the high techs. And this really like anyways like every music is really enjoyable at some point, or you know, if it's well produced.
Yeah, I believe personally that for me as a producer for over 20 years, producing all kinds of music, singers, bands, and all kinds of stuff, the high tech uh, catches me in the point where it's so fast that my brain stops separating everything and understanding everything in the music, and I can just see the image of the sound in front of me. And in that sense, it relieves me from my judgmental mind towards sounds, you know.
Well, I don't know, like I don't think it has to do with speed. Well, it does, like, but to a degree, because also like, you know, 145, 150 stuff, like you already like I'm not dissecting it too much when I'm enjoying it. I'm just flowing with it, right? But what I feel about high tech for me, like in as like I this is just my personal opinion, right? Like, but I don't listen to the grid stuff, right? Like what I listen to is like the long term
Exactly.
phrase, you know, and and that's something different. Like I do listen to the grid stuff on the slower stuff. Like although I don't necessarily analyze it, but I do listen to it. And on the high tech, it just gets so small that it's like some things can get like diluted into others. No.
Yeah, I see what you mean, for sure. It's harder to make it clear, to mix it. Everything has to be shorter. All the drums have to be, the transients, everything has to be tight.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it easily becomes a mess. You know? The lows are a bit harder to control as well, as you don't want such a long kick.
Yeah, you don't want such a long kick, so like to get a punchy kick that it's actually like cutting through in the low end on that speed is pretty hard. Especially
Yeah,
if you want to do the like, you know, like the machine gun kind of
yeah.
stuff. How do you call that? You know, like machine gun, right? It's the machine gun bass. There is no other way. Like I don't.
In Brazil, we call galope, like cavalgada, like
Yeah,
like
like
riding a horse.
galloping. Yeah,
Yeah,
galloping. But anyways, like I think, but galloping here in Mexico, we say galloping for that or for that.
the offbeat,
Yeah, those are like galloping, kind of like triplet
the
galloping,
offbeat.
or just. But I just call it. You know, I think that's the fair way to call
Yeah,
this kind of music. It's not even high. It's just.
it is, man.
You like? Yeah, I like. Yeah, you too. Yeah, me too. Yeah, there you go. But anyways, we have some music to show you guys. Ooh, yeah, maybe it's is the stream warm enough? Yeah, we got some people. Yeah, let's do this. So we got some music we want to show. Well, that Fred want to show you. PatchBay showing. Is this coming out in somewhere soon or something? What's happening?
This track tune is coming out on Arcadius and Lil Momo compilation on Mosaico Records.
Cool.
There are a couple of DJs from Germany, really nice sets and really nice choice of music. And yeah, I made specially for them, as you can say by the title.
Yeah, man, killer. Yeah, so let's listen to this. Wait, it's just loading. Okay, here you go. I think it's coming.
You might be able to log in. And I'm gonna go to my Twitch on the phone for a moment, okay? Just to check. the chat.
Okay, so
What
we
should I?
are back.
What do I
we
look for in Twitch?
we are back. Yeah, on Twitch you need to just look for, yeah, on the chat. You know, like on the stream there is like a there is one thing that says chat. Just like click on the chat on our stream. You know, are you watching? You watching the stream? Yeah.
No, no, that's the thing. I'm opening Twitch now. Where should I? Where did I find the stream? I'm sorry.
Ronald McDonald. Remember?
Toronto.
Ronald McDonald with double N on the McDonald.
Yes, guys.
Cool, man. So we are back again online, and yeah.
Now with the chat, telepathic is laughing at me. Is that the last message?
Yeah, telepathic is definitely laughing at, well,
Nice one.
probably at me for not sorting this out before.
These Chilean people, man.
These Chilean people, they don't have any they have no respect.
Bullers. That's the culture there. Avocado and bullying.
Bullying Chileans. Like, this is.
And a lot of avocado, man. And even more than Mexico, maybe.
I didn't sign up for this. So yeah, well, man,
me neither.
What took you to go into the modular side of things? Why to start?
That's a great question. It was like this. I have an 8-year-old daughter, and at the time when her mom was pregnant, her mom is Colombian. I moved to Colombia, and I was kind of not so excited about music at the moment. And because my life was going into this direction, I decided to give it some time, you know. So I spent a year and a half in Colombia, where I would only play a gig if people would fly me on Friday and fly me back on Sunday, so I could keep taking care of my daughter. And I had no studio there. I was not producing new music. So I felt like there was almost a year like that. There was not much future for what I was doing. And at this moment, there was like 6 months previous from that, I had sent some new PatchBay tracks to Merv from Eat Static and some other artists that I really like. Stefan from Total Eclipse and people like that. From the beginning of Psytrance, people that made me like it in the first place. And then when I was about to quit, Merv called me on a chat in Facebook and said, dude, I'm playing this track from yours in my show, and it's a ripper. It's been killer. And I was like, dude, you're talking to Fred from Brazil. You know, we met in Chile in this party. No, yeah, it's you. It's the track is Inner Something. He didn't even remember the name of it. And I was like, fuck, man, are you serious? And he was like, yeah, I'm serious. I'm like, fuck, man, I'm about to retire here. I will have to keep doing this shit if you tell me that. And he was like, yeah, I'm serious. Then 2 weeks later, he was like, dude, I just played your track in Tokyo, and it was a blast. 2 weeks later, I played your track in Tel Aviv, and I was like, fuck that shit. I'm making music, you know? And he said, well, if you're coming back to making music, you should seriously consider diving into modular systems, because that changed my life and the helm of possibilities for my creation. And I think that would change your life as well. So I sold the Nordlead, went to make a tour in Europe, got some money together, and bought a small roll with some synths. Basically, some stuff that I could use to process sounds from the virus I owned at the time as a main oscillator. Yeah, crazy killer Merv, man. The craziest, no? The legend. Motherfucker. He's been touring with his rock band, Osric Tentacles, since 1979, and he's still alive and rocking, man. I mean, he's a OG, a true rock and roll.
Man, he's been touring longer than I've been alive. You know, that's something to say.
Yeah.
And he still has more energy than I have. You know, like this guy is like it's on another level. He's a true living legend, Merv, man, and more so that he like brought you back into your senses, man. Because you make some killer stuff, give it. So So yeah, man. So Merv got you into this very very expensive habit of buying
Exactly, man. Very,
little
very
things.
expensive. Not only in money terms, you know, you lose friends, you lose girlfriends, and, you know, relatives.
Yeah, it's like how? Why can't we go for a vacation, honey? Yeah, because look at my math filter. Look at it. It's like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, basically, it's really hard to develop all or any other kind of relationship if you go that deep into the sound, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, I still recommend most people to dive as much as they feel the need into their creation process.
Who
You
needs?
know, like giving classes, I had students that wanted to understand what was Vactro behind the circuit and why was it implemented. And I had students that wanted to know how to download Get Lucky from Daft Punk in MIDI, put it on Ableton, and play their guitar and sing on top in the bar in their cities.
Yeah.
So it all depends on what is your need in creation, no?
Right.
How much you need actually to dive into this. Because at some point you might become a synthesist and not a musician anymore.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a synthesist, but I like synthesis, but I'm definitely not very advanced on it. I do see some bottlenecks on VSTs and on like on pre-programmed synths that definitely are not there for modular systems, right? Bottlenecks,
Yes,
walls.
yes, man, exactly. Moog is very famous and very important. He made the envelope. He made a bunch of amazing things like the 1 volt per octave tracking oscillator. He revolutionized the music, the synthesizer utility for musicians. But most of the designs they are made in order to be a full instrument for someone who's a musician, not a sound designer, not a sound creator. And in that sense, also, it becomes really interesting to go into the modular world because you will figure that there is a bunch of techniques of synthesis that were abandoned just because they couldn't be scaled into a keyboard and reproduced in tune
Yeah.
throughout the chromatic scale. So they were useless. But they create amazing textures and feelings,
Yeah.
and you can still tune parts of them and use just parts of them. And you have samplers nowadays, granular and all kinds of samplers that you can make that your prima materia, and from there build up the sound. So I think it's a moment where we have all the resources from the past, all the analog choices we had from the past, and amazing, unbelievable granular possibilities into reverbs, convolution into plugins that are revolutionizing the sound. The quality of the stuff you can make in your home now is much higher than most studios could do in the 70s.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, Dopefer and like all these like modular brands and what they've been doing and bringing back all this West Coast technology, no? Like, tell us a little bit about the West Coast before we go into this first track. There's gonna be what's his name? Balboa.
Okay, basically, uh, the idea that Don Buchla, this NASA scientist who left NASA to make synthesizers at the time, was competition to Moog. His idea was that the synthesizers needed no connection to previous instruments, like keyboards or guitars or anything known by musicians to control it. That you could use sequencers controlling by voltage and creating melodies with voltage quantizers that will throw all the voltage into the music scale that you want. And the major point on the West Coast that was abandoned, and it's coming back strongly, first with the Eurorack and now to the mainstream, is the randomization of things. This is an element that was seen as useless for the musicians in the beginning of the synthesizers, and now is seen by people like me and many other musicians, electronic producers, as a new horizon to music. Once we are for so many decades into minor and major scales, into 4x4, and finally we have the possibility to create things that are actually out of the box by creating windows of randomness where your variations can go or not. And this was completely abandoned by then, was recovered a bit. And nowadays, if you buy the Pioneer sequencer, for example, which is a high-end sequencer that works with MIDI, USB, CV, expressive MIDI, there will be randomization choices in there that were implemented in the last years. Eurorack started as a cheaper modular format in 95. Normally they would be 5U, longer ones with the big jacks,
big
like
ones.
the Moogs and the ones you see on the movies. And
The ones you see on the movies.
Yeah, or in a junky extra large studio where he has all this gear he rents from Hans Zimmer and these guys who collect synths from when they use it to cost $1 million. And this guy made it popular, and many people jumped in creating things that didn't exist in this house. And nowadays, there are modules that have algorithms in it that don't exist into any other plugin. So there are actually digital synthesis that you can only do if you buy a certain module from a certain factory. Even wavetable or granular synthesis, there is a reverb in the modular world made by Herb. This guy is the director of the International Digital Audio Association, and these reverbs considered to make you be able to go from a coffin into deep space. And this is stuff that no other machine does because people think in the box. They think reverb. Is it for vocals? Is it for drums? But he's thinking reverb. It's for creating timbre, for creating sounds.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily to create a space to the...
Well, like it's like from the smallest space to the biggest space, which would be like the Earth. That's why I was trying to like in one of my tutorials. I think it's the one with crashes. I started making crashes with thunders because it's like, well, it's the biggest reverb, so just hits with thunders, just like a, and it's really cool because the thunder just like goes to one side and then the other and starts crunching everything. And you put reverb on those, it already has the Earth's reverb, right? But it's really cool, like the stuff that you can do and convolute stuff with that. That's really, really good stuff for convolutions. But anyways, let's go for the next track. It's gonna be Balboa. Balboa is made from Mexico, and he is on the chat, I think. Yeah, if you're on the chat, say hello, dude, because people are gonna roast you from now on. Roast. So which track should we play? You sent me 4 tracks, dude. So I'm just gonna go eeny, meeny, miny, mo, wanna, bum, 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 chun, 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 chun. Okay, well, it says let go, so let go it is. Okay, let's do this.
The art of let go like a lot of people, when you tell them to relax, they become like a limp rag. It's not relaxing. Relaxing is having still tone. says it's the art of let go, of non-attachment. Non-attachment doesn't mean that you lose your appetite for dinner. It means simply that you stop grabbing. You get rid of stickiness. Like a lot of people, when you tell them to relax, they become like a limp rag. It's not relaxing. Relaxing is having still tone. You simply have to face this fact that everything is in flux and go, 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 go.
And we are back. Yeah, so really nice track. Nice master. I mean, a bit quieter than usually what people ask me for. It's like two dBs quieter, or 3 maybe. But it's nice. It sounds really clean. That's what we were saying. Very nice kick and bass. Good stuff. Nice.
Yeah, I also like it, man.
What do you think,
Really
man?
nice. Our range is nice. The sounds are nice. Delays well worked. No big tails that are not needed. I really like it. Good production.
Yeah, man. Super good production. Uh, very, very clean stuff. That's why I thought like a really clean low end. Uh, good, nice and punchy. Yeah, good stuff. No notes needed, man. It's killer. Good stuff. Keep going. Keep doing this, man. So yeah, let's go back into to Fred, man. What do you think of the future of modular synthesis, man? Like, what do you think it's coming? Or what you think there is like any more modules to be like invented, like some like other processes to be like done for audio that we haven't really thought about? Like, what do you think?
Man, that's very, very intelligent question. It's actually great. I think that there are combinations that, as I told you before, we abandoned in the past because they were not so controllable in terms of chromatic scale that are coming back. There are some new ideas coming. One of the companies to be followed in this sense for me is Rossum Electronics with double S.
Okay.
They are one of the companies creating stuff that you never heard about. Last year I got one new module only, and that module was from them. It's called Panharmonium, and the function is called a resynthesizer. It's an audio sampler that you decide the rate of sampling that will catch the tune and the audio material that you are using, giving you a band pass or a notch filter that you can use on it to choose what you want to sample from the material.
Wow.
And then it gives you a blur function that is kind of a granular dissolution through small envelopes of the sound.
Wow.
It gives you a reverberation option. It gives you a detuning 2 octaves up and down. And most important, it's a resynthesizer. So you have from 1 to 16 oscillators that you can choose to resynthesize the material. So you can actually sing and hear a Moog playing what you're singing and stuff like that.
Wow.
A Moog sound per se. And there are things like that being created and developed also in the realm of plugins. And there are some of them that are
Helmholtz?
available in the PC.
How do you spell that? Like Electricity asked if you could spell it Helmholtz.
This equipment I'm talking about, the brand is called Rossum, Rossum.
Oh, Rossum. Okay.
In my right, Electro dash music.
Electro.
Electro music. Yeah,
Dash.
Rossum Electro music. And this model specifically is called Panharmonium. There is also a very interesting company from Scotland doing some new algorithms into granular synthesis that allow you to get different textures and different results using that. But basically, a lot of this stuff is available. Yeah, that's correct. A lot of this stuff is available for VCV Rack as free download.
Yeah.
So someone asked earlier how to enter the modular world in the chat, and I would recommend you to download the VCV Rack, which is a freeware, and download the plugins, all the modules that are for free there.
But not all of them. Like it's like a list like that.
I was gonna say that there are thousands. You could go for all, or you could go for like YouTube and then find out what's actually interesting, like Volt and companies that make expensive VSTs that are giving for free filters and sequencers there. Companies like Befaco, which is a modular company that does sell kits for you to solder, so it makes it cheaper for you to enter the modular world. And we have Electric Seed here in the chat that can recommend people where to buy PCB boards, where to learn how to solder. If you're into doing that stuff,
Yeah.
if not, just the digital helm is enough to get into it for sure. All the mutable instrument collection, just that is already worth it. Downloading the VCV rec and getting into it. The mutable modules would cost you $5,000 about to buy all of them. They are all digital and they're all amazing. Emily Gillett, in my opinion, is our contemporary greatest synth builder. Is the person that is leading the industry further in terms of fusing digital and analog, which I think is what I was saying earlier. Now we can enjoy the best of both worlds. You can get your serum, make an amazing wavetable synthesis in there, send it to an analog filter and make it hot as fuck, put it into an overdrive pedal from Boss and record it back with some distortion from your preamp in the sound card. It's possible to create new textures and new sounds, which I think is a part of what we do somehow. Not just composing the music, but bringing psychedelic sounds that were never heard.
Yeah, bringing sounds alive that we've never heard, that like no one has ever really done before. But that's why I meant, like, because, you know, it's a flanger is just a flanger, right? Even though like some flangers are, wow, what a flanger, right? But a flanger is just a flanger. So, but this is like coming back, like, do you think like in all this, like, I do believe like maybe some, you know, some logic, logic gates, etc., like haven't been thought of and like maybe could be like interesting. But in terms of like processing, like, I don't know, man, we've been going pretty far, you know, with FFT and with all this to.
I understand what you're saying. I agree, because in some sense, it's really hard to manipulate sound in some other way. But in terms of connections and design, they were all limited in use, as you were saying.
Yeah.
So the synthesizer is made for the keyboard player. The reverb's made for the studio engineer that wants to make good vocals. They're not necessarily made for you to explore in an open field.
Yeah.
In this sense, I believe that the modular system gives you options like we spoke earlier, me and you before the podcast, about how many more random possibilities there is in Vital compared to Serum.
Yeah.
And it is nice. You have 6 or 8 envelopes, if I'm not wrong, 8, and 8 LFOs and 4 random sources.
But the randomness of, like, you know, what we were talking, no, like the source of the randomness, right? Like the purlin or like the, you know, the sample and hold, etc. Like those come from different algorithms, right? And when you get to randomness and to like this kind of random generators on, like you were telling me, you know, like please tell us about random generators, because this is very, very interesting, like how they get to some randomness.
People did many kinds of experimentations, way more than we do nowadays, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, with synthesizers. Nowadays, it's much more a matter of getting where you want than just trying it out. And through doing these experiments, they figured that there are better sources of randomness, because randomness is basically a random voltage that is pushing stuff up and down. Either it's a knob or the tone of the oscillator. And in terms of going up and down, you can create that in different forms. In terms of mathematical formulas, it's believed that Alan Turing's formula, from the Nazis in the Second World War, is a great formula to generate melodies. It's believed that Brownian is a great method to generate arpeggio-like melodies. It's known that low-frequency noise or clocked noise is good for slower modulations like cutoffs and things like that. There are people who went much further than that, actually. There are people generating randomness through radioactivity in heat and Uranus.
Oi, 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 oi.
Uranium. There is people generating randomness through living bacteria. It's actually a couple of girls from Mexico. They have this project. They have, have you heard of biochips? It's like microchips with a living bacteria inside, and
Oh,
people manage to store information in the bacteria.
wow.
This woman, they inject oxygen, so the bacteria move faster or slower, so they can create more changing randomness or less fast changing randomness. And they make music with living bacteria inside microchips. There is a guy in Holland. He connects liquid movement sensors into trees, and he plugged 4 trees, scale them into time and melody, and like that the trees can play the melodies and in the scale that he chose within the octaves that he programmed.
What?
And he can hear. Yeah, there is a module called I forgot the name now. It's a Scottish module where he gets biometric sensors connected to the Eurorack. So you can plug it to yourself or to a plant or to a peyote cactus or whatever you want, and have this generate the randomness for you. So in this sense, the randomness can come not only from different sources, but it can be affected by many other factors out of your control.
That's
As I was
crazy.
telling you before, there are some studies made with randomness in New York in the 70s, using computers making patterns based on random on a formula, on mathematics of chaos, basically substituting the result into the variable of the formula constantly and getting random results. And they figure that in the Christmas, in the New Year's, in the Thanksgiving, in the Easter, the computer will make patterns on these results. They would the energy of the people, the vibes would change the result of the randomness. So I believe strongly that when I come to the show with generators that make voltage by electric collision, by electrons colliding and making it higher or lower, these machines will be affected by my mood in that day, and by the people on the venue, and by the place, and by the vibe. And this will actually physically affect the result musically, rhythmically, melodically. So I think it's a new approach to music that can be, maybe, I hope, in the future extended to tracks, where you are not going to master my track anymore. You're going to make a preset of master for my track. I'm going to compose my track, but in the melodies on the break, I'm going to say, I want randomness from this part to this part every time this track plays. And I want this algorithm to make it random, and I want it only on 3 octaves on that music scale. And you're never going to listen to my track the same way, ever. Every time you play, it's going to play different.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really, really cool. That's what I used to do that on my projects, basically, like I just leave the synths. Well, I don't used to, like I still do it, just when I'm not really sure how I want the synth to sound, but it's like I just want randomness there, and I just leave the synth. I don't really record it or anything. I just leave it with randomness and everything, and then like every time that I record it is a little bit different, so like it keeps me interested. It keeps me a little bit more like, but sometimes it's not as good as last time. That's
True.
for sure. But it's maybe it's
True.
better. Maybe it's better for some people, Maybe it's worse. Who knows?
Yeah. Maybe sometimes good means easier to understand in terms of pattern. So in that sense, I think randomness is interesting for people who actually listen to music, not for people who want to understand the pattern of the loop in the second time the loop plays.
Yeah, no, and also, like you can get random stuff sound very repetitive, or random stuff sound completely out there. No, like it depends really on the parameters that you are tweaking and like
Randomized.
affecting. No.
Yeah, also on the source, because there are sequencers like the Pioneer itself and modulars, and sequencers that like MIDI generators for your DAW or your DAW that are able to make that in only one note of the 8 notes. So you can make a bass line, and only the last note is going to change within 1 octave inside a scale that you chose. So it's always going to fall in, but it's always going to be different. You can choose that one step of your snare plays or not 30% of chances of play. So the rest of the snare is going to be a loop, but the snare roll is going to play randomly sometimes and sometimes not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
no,
possible to make it more intelligible.
yeah, I use that also. Like in Cubase, it's called density, and it's really cool. That one, it's cool. Like you just like leave like all the notes that you want, in the pattern, and then just select how many percentage. But yeah, I mean, this it makes a lot of sense what you say about like the source of the randomness affecting the result of and like each source is sometimes better for one thing or another. No, like I need to get into more. I'm not sure if there's any MIDI effects that you can install for Cubase. It's,
Man, in that matter, I have to hands down agree with Ralph from Brain Cell. Bitwig is the shit.
The best.
It's the fucking shit. You can do whatever you want. If you want another 8 sample and holds to control your serum, you just open your 8 sample and holds there and attach it to assign it to whatever you want. And this is something that the modular system gives to you, that Bitwig expands on everything that already exists. You can put a reverb on only one note of your snare using a sequencer on the mixer of the reverb.
Yeah, that's crazy. But it's so deep.
Insane.
It's so deep. I mean, I can do that by doing an automation, basically, an automation. It's more linear. Like, in a way, it's more like, it's like Fruit Loops, but modular, right? So it's, because you can still have, you have your sequences in Fruit Loops. You have like your internal sequencers for each one of of your clips, right? Like it's not quite like what I remember of Fruit Loops back 20 years ago. But yeah, MIDI randomness.
Yeah, 10 years ago. It was actually shown to me by Stereographic, a very nice Brazilian artist that used to make music in Boom Shankar.
Yeah, man, Boom Shankar, the cutting edge of wonky.
The Fruity Loops. Yeah, man. I heard. Have you heard of Senor Coconut?
No.
He's a German producer that made in the 80s a Latin album with versions of Kraftwerk.
Oh.
Like We Are the Robots with some salsa on the back and stuff like that. Really nice. And a couple of years ago, I was in Berlin for the Super Booth, which is the gathering of synthesizer manufacturers, the yearly gathering of everybody goes, from Behringer to the most underground maker, people who make sensors to put in your feet and things like this. And it's really nice, man. That's like Disneyland for people who like synthesizers. And,
I think. What's the name again?
Yes?
I missed that.
Super Booth.
Okay.
It's in Fez, a park in Berlin.
Nice, man. I never heard that.
Yes, really nice, man. Opportunity to put your greasy hands into Buchla systems that cost $30,000 and ask questions to the manufacturers.
They're already sweating, like they feel already sweaty, just for touching that knob and like leave my DNA. Sorry. So wait, we have one track from SJK Project. Let's blast that on. But before that, I'll leave you guys with an idea, yeah? Neuralink controller, yeah? Okay. Well, let's play this now. So we are back, and yeah, well, this was a bit of a bit of a track, right? Not a full track. It finished like that. I didn't stop it, guys. So this has to be clear. So yeah, I think the low end, well, it has some problems with balance. This track, like I'll let Fred start, and then like I'll roast it. So what do you think, man?
I would focus first on the separation of equalization on the bands, and get the heads more towards the high, and get some more punch. Carefully using an enveloper or a transient designer into the drums to make it a bit more punchy, spiky, more tight, so the rest can be more fluid. The synthesizers and everything else can flow easier through a more structured bass.
Yeah. Well, there were some comments in the chat that were saying, like, you know, I'm missing the low end. You know, and SJK replied, cut from 35 hertz. Yeah, so sometimes it's not really that it's missing the low end, but it's like a balance problem, right? Like, so you have your hi-hats, like they're super loud, yeah, like they're louder than the kick in terms of, well, if you see it in the spectrum, like you could see it in the spectrum analyzer. Oh, no, you couldn't see the spectrum analyzer. Sorry about that. But, yeah, basically the hi-hats are louder than the kick, and that's a problem, because then like you feel that there's no bass, right? So there is bass on that track, but it needs to balance the elements, I think, a little bit tighter to the mix line, like to the mixing level. But yeah, it's still a bit of work. I think, you know, the kick and the bass could have a lot of work, you know. There is like, I feel there is like a layer on the bass. I heard there is like a layer on the bass. I feel, you know, I heard there is like a layer on the bass, and the top layer is a little bit wonky. Like, anyways, like that's just my take on it. What do you guys think? Let's roast. Let's roast. Okay, wait. Let me just find the other. What else do you think, Fred? Tell us about.
Man, I like the construction. I think it's a great idea. It's what you said. It's more about the presentation, the mixing, the separation of bands, some attack issues. Some percussion could be shorter, like the heads, so it gives more space in the mix for the synthesizers to be more present. And I agree 100% with the baseline issue. I think that these higher layers on the baseline should be removed in order for the same reason, so you could get more space for synthesizers, and even mid-low synthesizers, that you don't need to cut the low so hard.
Yeah, usually when I have like a high, well, like basically I just use one bass normally, no, but then I use a lower hi-hats are higher than kick and bass, then there are a lot of work to get. What? Yeah, well, it's balancing, and then it's like that. But what was I saying? Sorry. I need to finish what I'm saying and then like start reading the comments. But yeah, when I'm layering my bass, you know, I have one bass that is like full frequency everything, and then like I control the transient there, and that, no, don't worry, man, like it's my fault. So I control the transient there, and I'm doing it again, you see. And then from that I take out the low end, like the fundamental of that bass, and then I put one sine wave that has no filtering, no multiband process, nothing. Yeah, so it has no group delay, it has no pre-ringing. So like the real low end of your music is like in time, no pre-ringing, and like not phasing. And then the transient part of the bass, it can phase a little bit, you know, because then you have that solid low end of the bass that is like there. But I usually don't use resonance on the bass, you know, like on either part of my bass lines. Some people do. I feel it kind of like breaks the bass as the envelope is moving, you know. So it's one of those things that some people do, some I don't. But yeah, I think that's what I meant, you know, like that top layer of the bass kind of feels like resonant, like a boing boing boing, that it's like bringing me out of the actual low end groove that should be there, you know. But yeah, like, so bringing back, like, look, what do you think about controllers, man? Like, what is your take about controllers, and like how does that help your workflow? Do you think that there is any innovations in controllers, or like you know?
I I like very much the expressive MIDI. This technology is still not so explored because I believe it was mostly developed for sampling machines to reproduce instruments as they are played naturally. So there haven't been so much innovation. What I feel about controllers is that if you have at least a small keyboard that has one modulation wheel, even doesn't even have to be a knob,
Yeah.
and you start using it and recording your stuff with closed eyes in your studio, you're going to achieve better sonic results than if you start drawing in your DAW pyramids and triangles and straight lines that have no correlation to what you are hearing. And that's an error that I fell into for over a decade, and most people fall into because, I don't know, we have some OCD or some crazy shit that makes us want to have straight lines and perfect drawings of Mayan pyramids in our automation, when actually, depending on the sound you're mixing into, let's say it's a mid-low synthesizer, you are fading into the music as the break approaches, for example. And this is not a straight line because it's mixing into the bass and the kick in the beginning of the raise. So it shouldn't be, because that's not going to give you the feeling that it's coming slowly from the beginning.
Yeah.
It's actually going to appear in the middle as it jumps out of this mix with the bass and kick. So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily a straight line what you're looking for. So I feel that any kind of controller will change the results and will change also your relationship with music. You will stop looking into a screen and to a straight line and start to listen to what you're doing and feel it with your ears. That was a big jump for me because I always had the knob, but I always did lines in automation, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's I stopped using controllers, like well, at least keyboards, like for quite a while, because of layout here. Like, I just can't fit a keyboard right here. You know, it's not enough space. And I started doing it with the keyboard in the computer, and that helps, you know, at least to do like progressions. And yeah, like I miss the knobs, you know, like just doing the automation on knobs, etc. But it's yeah, it's one thing that I should start doing again, I think. I have one controller here. Oh no, I didn't give it away, but it's been lent. It's upstairs. But yeah, I have one controller here with knobs that I should be starting to use. But yeah, I think that, you know, new technology. What is this, like what is the MP? What, MPC or MDP? What is this new controller kind of type? You know, the ones that you like sliding and doing this kind of stuff.
Man, this is the expressive MIDI. It's something that all the plugins from Logic already work with. If I'm not wrong, was they? Let me look for this link here. Link. This was started by maybe. Now I'm starting to open some actual cool things here. Dude, have you seen this MIDI controller from a brand called Polyend?
No.
It's the MIDI controller that Richard Devine uses in his live acts. It's like a surfboard. It's a gigantic MIDI. It's 64 steps, if I'm not wrong, times 8.
Okay, wow.
but it comes with all the pad controllers to play drums, like MPC from Akai in this line, sensitive pads. They they if they have expressive MIDI, they will have an X, Y, Z axis of expression into the square, except from the velocity and the note you're playing. And this can be driven into any kind of control. There is a brand from Greece that makes synthesizers and modulars called Dreadbox. They are considered to be the closest to Moog sounding oscillators and filters. And they have a module, a synthesizer they made together with Polyend called Medusa. This is a hybrid synthesizer, three wavetable oscillators, 3 analog oscillators, 1 analog noise generator, 1 analog filter, 6 digital envelopes, 5 digital LFOs.
Jesus
But
Christ.
it comes with a yes, fucking amazing. But it comes with a 64-step sequencer from Polyend. They joined to make this project, and it's called Medusa because each of the steps of the sequencer is connected to each of the parameters of the whole synthesizer. So you can actually program full presets per step and then tell the sequencer to move randomly through them.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah. That's like a spaceship more than a synth. How much does that cost?
this cost under $1,000. It was released on 1,100 euros. It didn't take off. It's not very famous. They bring it down to 900 or 8. I got one in Guitar Center's Black Friday a couple of years ago for $750.
Huh?
$750. So it's not much at all for what it is. Just the MIDI controller from Polyend costs more than $1,000.
Wow. Yeah. No, I want one.
And then you will have expressive MIDI to control softwares as well, as you can just twitch your finger into the pad and have gigantic controls. And you have attenuation for these controls. If you want them to be 100% or 50% or 20%, so you have a bit more of not so wide, you know.
Yeah.
There is also Joue, Joue,
Joey?
MIDI controllers from France. You know these ones?
No.
It's a board that you put rubber controllers, like rubber pieces on top. So you can choose a rubber keyboard or rubber knobs.
Yeah.
You just put it on top of this board and you can control. It's also expressive MIDI. And Dave Lind, I'm gonna find this last guy, which is actually the guy who invented this expressive MIDI. And
Wow.
man, this is revolutionizing, but not so explored into the sound designing realm yet. They're all being driven to look how well you can play this saxophone sampler or this drum set, or
Yeah.
not yet towards making a K oscillator out of it,
Yeah, no, that's gonna be amazing when you can I don't know. It's a lot of. That's why I meant, where are we in terms of innovation? Like how far can we go from where we are? Obviously, probably pretty far, but
man, the groundbreaking stuff for me is the body interaction stuff.
Yeah.
There are softwares where you can use your Apple Watch to put the music into your heartbeat. There are sensors of X, Y, Z that you can use to control melody, cut off, whatever you put on the sound, that you can attach to your sneakers and make the drum kick with your feet, gloves. And there is an arch also and a helmet to put on your head. There is a modular system, a small module from Sound Machines from Italy. It's a great company that you buy separate an arch that gets electromagnetic waves from your brain into your modular, so you can drive it to control cutoff, melodies, rhythms, or whatever you choose to. And I believe this is a new exercise also to learn to control your brain vibration in order to open a cutoff. It's a whole new learning to play instrument thing,
Yeah, it's one of those things that might get your eyes rolling backwards, and you're like, this kind of meditation kind of situation. That's why I was talking about when I said, like, Neuralink controllers, like, because this is just it's an arch, like, how many sensors does Neuralink? I'm still not sure that there is like a prototype or anything that has been shown, but it, it's gonna be.
This module is available. What I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I mean, but
You can buy it.
Neuralink is still not available, and that's gonna be way more definition, like, I think, than this, like, bulk controller that is just like 3 or 4 different sensors, or I don't know how many, but I'm pretty sure this multi-billionaire guy is gonna bring us some good stuff. I
Yeah,
hope
man.
so.
I think somehow this will bring us to a point where every person that uses machines wants to be, which is to become Ganesh and have 6 arms, so you can move all these knobs at once.
Yeah.
If you can actually learn to use your brain to control this stuff, that can be really nice, no?
Ah, but man, like, I can't even talk and write at the same time. Like, do you think I can, like, control 6 knobs with my brain while I'm, like, just, no way, man. I'm gonna
I think
stop
it's an exercise.
breathing. I'm gonna forget to breathe. Like, I'm just gonna wait.
Man, playing the drums is already crazy
Yeah.
for me. I learned guitar and a bit of keyboard. Playing the drums, like 4 different rhythms with your body, is crazy. But if you compare it to driving, it's not so different.
No, but
Like
driving is mechanical, and
that's what I'm saying. It can become muscle memory at some point.
it could be, yeah, it could be. I don't know, man. Multitasking. I don't know, man. Let's see. Maybe the next generation is gonna be way more proficient than me in this kind of situation. Like, I'm
Big
still.
discussion on the subject. Indeed, I have friends who strongly believe there is no such thing as multitasking. That this is an illusion.
Yeah, well, you're just doing short breaks of each thing, right? Like, and you have good memory to remember what you were doing before. This is multitasking in a nutshell. But
Yeah, it's true.
it's just small tasks, like, little
Never,
by little.
never thought of it like that, but definitely.
But it's hard. It's hard to. I do believe it's hard to really, like, do 2 things at once. Rather, like, sensory stuff is one thing, but, like, like, cognitive stuff, it's. I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways,
I don't know if I told you I do a techno show with only modulars where I create the music live.
yeah.
And
What's the name of that
when
project?
man, this project nowadays is called Ponto, Ponto,
Ponto.
and it's only called Ponto because I accepted to release music. Because in the beginning, as the idea was to create the music using random generators on the stage, it wouldn't ever be possible to repeat a track or a melody or even some rhythms. So I spent 3 years playing this show, and every time people hire me, they would say, "What do I put on the flyer?" And I would say, "Choose a name." Because it never happened before and it's never going to be repeated. I want a unique name for this act that's going to happen. And for this reason also, I refuse to record, because I want the music to be a happening, something that is really unique, that you should really shut the fuck up and try to listen to, because it's never ever going to be like that again.
Yeah.
In this sense, that it makes it a happening. And I accepted in the end to remix a friend, and now I'm about to release some tracks. But yeah, in the end, the project is Ponto.
Ponto, cabron. So cool. Yeah, no, I hope I can catch you playing at some point. It's really at some point, oh, but it's really it's really it's very cool, cool idea, very cool approach onto performing and, like, writing music, and especially just because writing music, well, yeah, it's like it's still there, no, but you're performing this, so it's like it's I mean, it's the least generic and the most like, how do you say it? Like, ephemerous.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah, exactly. And bringing more a bit of the jam thing, of the blues, of the jazz, improvisation. No plot, no text to follow, just flow.
yeah,
And in this sense, as I told you before, also with the belief that the people, their vibe, will affect the machines that will determine the notes and the direction. The MIDI controller I wanted to remember is made by Roger Linn, Linn.
Roger
Roger Linn,
Lynn.
if I'm not wrong, is the guy that actually, let me write it on the Roger Linn on the, yeah, exactly. Is the guy that created this kind of MIDI controllers. Polyend is the name of the other brand that makes the amazing Richard Devine controller. And these guys, yeah, Linstrument, correct. These guys, they revolutionize completely. There are people doing like saxophone controllers in the UK that cost $8,000 based on this technology. Basically, they changed the MIDI because the MIDI is scaled into 0 to 175. So any knob that you record on MIDI is going to go through a staircase of 128 steps. It's not going to be continuous. Not that your computer is continuous, but it's much more steps than 128.
Yeah.
So let's just use an example of the volume. If you're going to change the gain of the channel, you go from minus 80 about to plus 6 into 0 ones. That's 860 positions, not 128.
Yeah.
So it's big jumps.
Yeah.
And these guys, they thought out of the box. And the Lemur, if I'm not wrong, is the first company to make controllers that had 3,500 positions about. This digital screen that you could put the knobs that you want. You know this?
Yeah, I know Lemur, yeah.
It just costed $3,000 at the time, and nobody had money to buy that shit. But the idea was fucking great.
Yeah, a friend of mine here, like he bought one. It was like a huge screen. I don't know, like how big. Like it was.
Oh no! I'm talking about smaller. Looks like it has a black frame and.
No, I mean
simple screen.
Yeah, no, but it was thick. You know, it was a thick fucking screen.
Old school
and
stuff.
then, you know, and 1 year later or half a year later, iPad came out. You know, like the first iPad was like small touch screen, like super like, and this big touch screen, man, was so bulky, and it was very difficult to get it like actually working. Right now with the technology, right now, I'm sure Lemur would do really well.
Yeah, I haven't checked much on the company later. But I would say that they probably developed something for iPads.
Yeah,
and
they got
like
the
that.
iPad app. They got the iPad app and everything. That's what Aja uses for playing. Sorry.
Oh, okay. That would be expressive MIDI. Yeah, that is amazing. Yeah. I remember the iPhone 1, the first MIDI controller I saw for it, that you had to download the software into your computer to communicate to the phone, and you could go to the middle of the crowd and equalize your fucking music live. Man, that blew my mind.
Yeah,
it blew my mind. Man.
I started playing with my iPad when it was like 2012, I think. And, I think 2012 I got my iPad. And I was feeling like super, super cool about it. Right now it's it's just convenient. But, yeah, it's, I don't know. Yeah, definitely. Grouch also uses it. Grouch, I'm not sure if he uses. Maybe, yeah. Maybe he uses Lemur as well. It's great. Nice. I use Touchable as well. Touchable is really cool. I'm not sure if it's expressive MIDI, but it's Touchable. It's everything is auto mapped on Ableton. You know. Apple Ableton, and it has like the mixer, and you can go and see the like, for example, the mixer, instead of seeing like the plugins like sideways like that, you see the actual plugin chain like from up to down, and yeah, it's pretty cool. It has like all the devices from live. It has like the actual graphic, like for the EQ, you can move the stuff, and like it's really, really cool and interactive.
Yeah, for Macintosh, we're really delayed. You know, I was educated in Logic when it was still for PC. Apple bought it. I became an Apple user. I'm a tester for Bitwig since before they launched the version 1.
Wow.
But I still use Logic. And this brings me to the past, man, because I would love to have just a touch screen computer and do everything with my hands and not need any MIDI controller or 128 steps interfaces. Just put your fingers on the plugins, no?
Yeah, well, but you're gonna get a little bit of short circuits there. Uh, you need some sort of interface, no? But what is this all about with MIDI 2.0 and all that? Is this what you're talking about? This expressive MIDI, or because there is?
I don't think so, man. I think this is something else. Let me.
Yeah, man. Because
I haven't read about it. It's probably something moving towards that, no? The
Yeah.
more definition into the control. But I have to say something. MIDI over USB is not my favorite thing.
No.
Especially if you're talking about clock.
Yeah.
And then it's a disaster. I would rather just use the internal clock of the virus or any drum machine than send it over USB, you know? It never hits the spot.
Oh yeah.
And
No.
it makes between the steps, so you cannot correct it.
And also you're dependent on the MIDI USB, MIDI to USB, drivers, whatever. It's like driving that stuff. That usually it's not as good as like a dedicated MIDI driver, like from a sound card like RME or whatever. No, so it's going to be more steps. But yeah, no, I hate. My Blofeld, I never use it with the USB MIDI. Like I tried, and then like you change a preset or parameter or something, and it stops working. It's like, dude, what? You have to like reset it and like, no, I'd rather not.
It didn't do the job.
Yeah.
We actually it's probably the oldest technology still in place now. It came to substitute the CV, the volt per octave.
Yeah.
The controlled voltage in the old keyboards like the SH101 from Roland still come with the voltage control. Some of them were adapted to MIDI, which is, in my understanding, a more poor form of controlling. It's just digital. That's the only supposed advantage. So yeah, it's been in place since the 80s, and it never really got developed.
Yeah, updated.
I hope that this. Yeah, I some people thought out of the box, like the Lemur, like we were talking about, the MPE, which is the MIDI expression, expressive MIDI, sorry. These guys are out of the box, but still slow absorption. A few users from Logic understand this concept of MIDI controlling, and all the softwares in Logic can be controlled by that. So it's something that didn't really got into the mainstream.
Yeah, no, I think
maybe because most people don't feel that need. I don't know.
Well, it's just we're too used to it, We are too used to MIDI, like to what it is. That's why I raised those questions about like what can we do new, like where are we right now in terms of innovation, like because we are used to what we are using, I guess.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. The CV is coming back strongly, Like if you have a sequencer from Pioneer, which is basically a DJ brand, not even a synthesizer brand, that comes with CV outputs, gate outputs, that means that this is a choice that is coming back. Also because this is an analog choice. It's no 128 positions, it's no 3,500 positions, it's fucking infinite.
Yes, everything.
So it is much more what you want in terms of sonic results.
Yeah, man. This
MIDI 2.0, man. I will research that. I'm opening links here. I want to understand what it does and how much more definition.
Felipe was saying, it's like MIDI works with 128 and 2.0 goes more than 1,000. So yeah, it's basically more positions.
Oh, okay. Oh, just read it. Cool, man. Cool. Yeah, it's a bit better. But you see that even the Lemur 20 years ago had the 3,500 position one. And the digital gear nowadays allows us to have much more, to process many more points than that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's and that's one of the things that is way nicer to do a filter sweep with your hand than to like leave it for the MIDI to control it, right? Like you have way like you can go through all those positions, obviously in an analog filter way more, yeah, but yeah, even on digital stuff, like you can really, really, really go through that filter like very nicely, and like the MIDI is just gonna be like, like you feel the steps really, really bad. I hate that between computer and
It's a
human.
big limitation
Very,
for us developing like subtle sounds, no? Mixing many sounds together. It's a limitation for sure.
yeah, man. It's like Saber says.
This
There's
is
a
also,
gap. What?
conversion is also one of the reasons why I decided to make this techno show. Not only because I understood the concept of randomization and wanted to use it live, but also I wanted to have a show where people can experience the sound coming from the analog gear straight into their ears.
Mm.
Analog gear to analog mixer to amplifiers to speaker to your ears.
Mm.
And this I saw the first time in a Chemical Brothers show concert. And where after the concert I went with a friend's camera near the stage and could zoom everything and understand that they had a MIDI sequencer under the table and they were actually using 20 something synthesizers and a few drum machines on stage straight into an analog mixer.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's like obviously tightness is not an issue there. Like they don't really like. It depends really on the style of how.
They calculate before the delay in microseconds of the MIDI to come to that synthesizer with the cable of X meters and the sound to come back to the mixer, and they adjust all the MIDIs in the sending, and everything arrives in sync in the mixer. I mean, phasing, forget it, but syncing is possible.
No,
It's
yeah,
a lot of work.
syncing for sure. You know, it's just precision and edits. You know, like first, like if you wanted to play psytrance, like fully, you know, like full on psytrance from modular, it's going to be very difficult to get that level of precision on the edits, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
you know, you can use stutter edit as much you want on your you know on your whatever module you can find that does something like stutter edit, but is nothing like cutting it, you know, like doing the chops and like actually getting it and then reversing it. Oh, okay, maybe do this. And this is the stuff that you will never be able to do on live, you know, like live this precision.
If you have a few extra modules that you can pre-program previous to the show, what I do is techno show that is pretty simple. I use the modulars to improvise on my psychedelic shows.
Yeah.
But the techno thing is pretty simple. It's got like 7 drum sounds, 1 bass line, and 1 synthesizer that will either play a chord or a melody. And that's it. So it's a more like acid techno, TB kind of bass line, this kind of direction. What you're saying, if you have extra modules, let's say you have an extra sequencer that you can use just to control the time division of your delay.
Yeah.
You can use a delay to do a stutter that you fully control.
Yeah.
It's possible. But in terms of like, I'm live and I want to make exactly that stutter right now, you have to have a lot of practice with the gear and extra modules.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's gonna be luck more than anything. Like, it's just, we're talking about luck and skills. And it's doable, you know, it's like, well, if you want to be a guitarist and play the same solo twice, it's gonna take you practice, you know, like, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think, you know, there are styles that can welcome more this kind of, this kind of performance, like techno for sure. Techno, you can do it, like certain
It's still sounds.
certain
It's much
styles of tech,
simpler.
that for sure. And also, you know, it's like the arrangement kind of stuff. But you know, the arrangement, you know, the speed that the sounds are coming in, you know, like the way that like you don't have enough hands.
You have time to mute, to unmute. It's not so fast.
Yeah, and actually, like you're working on a loop with techno, you know, with trance,
Yeah,
it's just like chop, chop, new stuff, chop, chop. It's
new
like,
thing. Yeah,
how can you do that in modular? It's going to be really difficult.
you would need a mixer, an audio mixer that has a Q output. There are some, so you can pre-make the next synthesizer, and you go to your sequencer, make the melody, prepare it, and wait for the break, and then unmute a channel, mute another channel. It is still it's a lot of work, no doubt. What I would love to do is to get a couple of friends that are into this shit and make a full show. Then we could be actually changing the music live, you know, in time. Because then we would be like Ganesh, 6 arms, but also 6 minds, three minds.
Yeah, no, this is one thing as well. You know, you need more arms to actually do that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, also, you know, there is this, you know, like what you're saying about, you know, performing live, actually making the music live. It's very valid. It's super, super, super cool to see that, you know, like actually seeing someone making the music live and like, also it's like, it's not all there is, that right? Like there is other people that play, you know, that they make all the music in their studios and like obviously like they work their asses off, and they just play just the tracks like, you know, sequenced already, you know, like there is people that just play like a DJ and just put the clips and just play like,
Yeah.
okay, now this one and this one, and they're all valid, I think, you know, like
Yeah, I think as long as you're playing your music in electronic music, it's called a live act, right?
yeah, I don't know
If
how
it's
to
your
call
own
it.
music.
I don't know how to call it, but it's still valid, you know, like it's still like however they want to play. There is this like attention onto, oh, how live is live, you know, like I do
Yeah.
believe your point is very, very valid, and it's amazing that you're doing that. Like it's one of the most innovative ideas that I've heard ever, you know, in terms of electronic music performance. But yeah, like I just wanted to make that emphasis in like there is no right answer, you know, just whatever floats your
For
boat.
sure, man. For sure. I
Mm.
think that whatever tool and whatever resource you have in your hands is what you should use, you know? That thinking that you're going to get a synthesizer or that analog is better than digital or that the speakers is not enough or whatever is bullshit.
Yeah,
I know people that make much, much better music than me with software, M Audio, Yamaha speakers, no problem, you know, a
yeah,
few $100. It's
same.
not about that. It's not a bicycle that wins the competition of bikes, and also art is not a competition. So I think everybody should just try it out, you know. I started at the PC my mother had with the speakers that came with the PC.
Yeah.
You know, my first Groovebox studio with the cassette, I used it to listen to the music into a guitar amplifier in mono. So whatever. There is
Yeah.
a stupid joke in Brazil in audio. I don't like it so much, but it's a good illustration. It says, whatever size of dick you have, you would not stop having sex.
Yeah,
So
you're
it
still gonna
doesn't
use it.
matter really.
You're still gonna try to use it. So for sure,
Yeah.
definitely, it's very inspiring what you're saying. Not about the dicks, but about the you know, like how you reach this. You know, like and I think with that in mind, not again, not that, but. But yeah, like you should try and use whatever you have. Like don't get stopped by your physical limitations. It's more your mental limitations that stop you. Like the physical or the, you know, the equipment that you have, you can adapt to it, you know, and you can make killer stuff.
Nowadays,
Like I think Grouch, yeah, Oscar told me like he was already making killer stuff, yeah, and he was using this like crappy speakers like in the corner of his bedroom, like, you know, you have the corner here and like each wall has one speaker, you know, and he was like right in the corner, and he's like, well, you know, I know it's not the best, but it's kind of working, you know, like it's the only symmetry I can find in my room. So it's like, well, you have to do what you have to do, you know, to make it sound playable. Yeah, and that's as much we can do.
I met artists bringing their CPU to make live act, telling me that they use a one-side working home stereo to make their music. I think it's Non-Stop from Cosma is really nice.
Yeah.
Have you heard Simplicity, the album that came before? Is also really, really good.
Yeah, Cosmo was great.
It also has to do with adjusting what you can do and what you want to do to the conditions. Let's say you want to create a lot of sounds to your music and your reference is really bad. There are big chances that this is going to be shit. You can use a bit of presets and samples and stuff that is already has been tried in studios and combine that with some creativity until you can trust your reference. And that's also possible. But what I believe is nowadays, man, it's never been so accessible.
Yeah.
When I got my first Groovebox for a lot of money, when I was 14 years old, to record it on a cassette, there was no YouTube. No. There was no manuals, there was no explanation, no friends to tell me anything. It was me and the machine and my ignorance in English and in physics and in sound. And nowadays, you can download Reaper for free. You can make music in your phone. You can download full sample banks for free. You can have Vital for free. So you have a full studio, something that would cost a lot of money in the past to have. A Moog would cost, I don't know, $1 million now, comparing to nowadays when it was released. And now you have a Moog in your fucking phone for $20 or for free. So it's never been so available for people. And sometimes I ask myself, why aren't people trying to do weird stuff? Because when Pink Floyd wanted to reverse the sound in the studio, they were unrolling a tape around the microphone stands until they find that exact point to cut and reverse and put some tape and roll the thing back and then try and say, oh no, it's wrong, it cut a part of the next word, let's do it again. So, and nowadays you press a command and you undo and you redo, and people should be experimenting more than repeating what's already been done.
Yeah, this is true, man. And it's like, it's such a good idea, like, just to have this in mind, no? Just to have, like, how they used to work, you know, how they used to do things, you know, like a reverb, you know, like having a reverb room before you had, like, spring reverbs and shit like that, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man, recording back in the day when it was, like, you know, technology has gone so far, and I still think like we are not, you know, like in our infancy of like where it can go, no, like especially in terms of like our brains and like how we interact with things, you know. I think I heard Elon, like he was my friend, Mr. Musk. I think I heard Mr. Musk saying something like, you know, the interface is the problem right now. You know, the technology is there. You know, it's just the interfacing that is a problem, because we are half cyborgs, no? Like we have like already our cybernetic half that we cannot go out with. You know, our phone. You know, like we. Tell me if you can reach anywhere without your phone. Like it's like I don't even know how to get to my grandmother's house almost, you know. And it's true. It's one of those things that it has changed a lot, and it's gonna change even more, you know. Like imagine your grandchildren, if you ever have any, like or if you already have them, like not you,
not yet.
But I mean like that's gonna be it's gonna be a big step, I think. You know, like we're seeing a really exponential growth in many things.
Man, I would say if you ask our grandparents how they thought we would be doing music nowadays, they had 1 in a 10 million chances of figuring that shit out, that we would be doing a podcast through our phones, talking about sources of randomness to create melodies and shit. Man, no fucking chance in earth. So I believe we have no chance to figure out what our grandsons will be doing in terms of music. I just try to hold to the concept that music is organized sounds.
Yeah.
So it is as flexible as possible, and any kind of thoughts can be put into this concept of art.
Yeah, man, totally. That's a really, really cool explanation for music. Better than the one that I heard from school. Is sound and silence. It's like, fuck off. Yeah.
Or harmony.
Yeah.
It doesn't have
Like,
to be
well,
harmonic.
It is, but
Depends
it's
on
like,
what you want to make people feel.
yeah. Well, sorry.
It doesn't have to be harmonic either, you know. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be in tune. Depends on what you want to make people feel. We spoke about microtonal scales last week when we spoke first time about the podcast, right? This is something we didn't approach in this chat today, and microtonal is another way, completely different approach of music, no? Which is dividing the octave into not 12 semitones, but 8 or 7 or 9 or 24. And the same with the music. I mentioned earlier Senor Coconut, this German producer who made the Kraftwerk into salsa in the 80s, and he did it using a sample machine. And in his workshop in the Super Booth in Berlin, he started with a phrase that blew my mind, which is the drum sequencer is the white man's approach to rhythm. And this blew my mind immediately, man, because since I was 15 and I got my first groove box, my brain was into 4x4, 16, swing and shuffle.
Yeah.
And that was as far as I would go, you know.
That's it.
And fuck, man, it's so much more.
Yeah, man. Well,
And then the polyrhythmic stuff also came back with the modulars, which is having sequences that have 7 steps or 5 steps running together with 8 4x4s or 8x4s, and they will sometimes makes more sense and sometimes not. In the Brazilian music, in the samba and the rhythmic cells of Brazilian music, which are African, there are stuff that will follow 2 compasses of 16, and then it will make a loop, like the tambourine that is used in the guitar of bossa nova, which is tak 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 tak. It's 8, and every 8 it's going to repeat, not every 4. So all these things, I think they are a big window for us into the electronic music for new horizons, you know, that are not trying to make a little better what's been done before.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's well, you know, talking about rhythmic stuff, it's like quite deep, and also tuning, you know. I think, you know, well, talking about tuning and scales, you know, it's quite so deep and so far beyond my comprehension, you know. So like I'd rather, but you know, rhythmic stuff, yeah, especially like I've rarely digressed from the 4/4, you know, because I've been into this stuff like all my production time, you know, all my life in production. I've been doing like psytrance and this like techno stuff, so never really been going far from that. So I should start that. Like,
Yes.
what do you think is a good starting point for polyrhythmic stuff and like for
Polyrhythmic is so simple into your DAW, because basically you're going to get your matrix that is 4x4, 16 steps, and reduce it to 13 instead and make it loop. And this is a polyrhythm.
Okay, yeah.
You see, Simon Postford introduced the 3x4, no, into trance, not in the delay, but in the melody, like one, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can go 7, you can go 5, and then it's going to be a bit more experimental. So you shouldn't do it on the main snare or something, but on the closed hats, on the, you know, other things that are not so structural, it's possible to use polyrhythms and make it more interesting for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. And well, with that being said, let's go to our last track. It's Electric Seed in dub, mix number 2.
Opa.
It's the
Nice.
man of the slays. So, is the man that is slaying the world. No, Slay is his company, and it's MIDI controllers. Very, very cool stuff. Also for modulars, he makes custom cases for. Well, he's been here as well, Electric Seed,
Beautiful
and
stuff indeed.
yeah, very, very cool stuff. And I will really gladly take one of those controllers. Like, let's talk more about it in the future, in the very near future. But yeah, let's listen to this track, and yeah, let's do this. Okay. And we are back. And yeah, that was a killer track. The mid range needs more attention, like more control on mid range. Tell us what you think, Fred. What's yours? What?
I think it's an amazing sound design. I really like the sounds. I think the mix could present the idea more clearly in the sense of having a bit more constant low end as a dub track would have, not so much dynamic on the low, and having a bit more presence on the highs, and as you said, a bit more of control, a bit more of compression on the backdrop sounds, on the leads, so it could be more constant in terms of volume and presence. But I really like the tune, the arrange, the sounds really nice.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I also noticed that in terms of low end, yeah, like more consistency on the low end would be nice. Like, the jumpy bass like you have can be like that, or can be like like Fred says, like something a little bit more linear, like a. But I think when you're changing tones, you're having some problems. Like you're going like when it's a higher note, it feels like it's lower volume right now. Like it's not quite giving the same pressure as the low notes, and that I think it should be a little bit more consistent. In terms of like the level of the bass. When it's going up and down in keys, and I don't mean the level in peak that you're seeing on your mixer, like I mean the level of the harmonic that is giving the bass, because it's bass music, so you need that harmonic to be like, more or less on the same level as the other notes, right? Or more or less, Yeah, you can sample the bass and mix every tone separately. Or you can use a different synth with different EQ, like just to push that, or just pushing like the different harmonic, because it's just, you know what I mean, like because the bass is really low, maybe you're pushing like the first harmonic rather the fundamental, and then when you're going up, then you're trying to push the first harmonic and it's too high because it's like over 100 hertz. So then you want to push the fundamental on that high note, so it's a different. It depends what you want to achieve, no? But yeah, another layer or another synth altogether,
Another layer is I wouldn't add another layer. I would go for what you said.
Yeah.
Trying to maybe get the different notes into different channels and just adjust the synth or the EQ in order to have in your meter the same amount of low, the same presence, the same level of low for each note, even though it's in different frequencies.
And then for the mid-range, yeah, definitely like the synths are a little bit pokey. And I understand this kind of music is like it should be a bit more dynamic, but not quite. It's like it's poking a little bit too much. So maybe multiband on the or just more compression, or just saturation and compression. On the synth channel, on the synth group channel, that would be good. But yeah, limit the shit out of the bass. That could also work.
Yeah, multi-band compression is something I recently started using less than 2 years ago.
That's great,
and it's a game changer.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
You
need more care in your ears than just equalizing to achieve a proper result, but the results are much nicer.
Yeah, I think there's different stuff, like that you can't do with equalization. Like, when you're compressing, like when I'm using multiband, for example, on mastering, yeah, like what I do is like I'm on the high end, for example, yeah, like I'm trying to push the transients up without losing, like so you can get the level of the high end into where it's like decent. But without pushing that like that is like the summing in the middle of the percussions, right? Like all the percussions being summed together, and that's the bit that you're compressing, right? So you can't really do that with equalization, because it's like it's a summing thing, right? Like because it's like many channels going into one channel, and then and it's one band of things. It's the high band of your music. So just moving that dynamic between the sounds and summing, it's very, very important to do the compression right. Oh, I think anyways. In order for proper EQ in my case is the
In the morning after, yeah.
yeah,
Definitely, man.
Sound
Fresh
gym.
ears make a big difference.
Sound gym. I've never done sound gym, but I should probably do that. But anyways, we'll wrap this up now. Thank you all for watching, and especially thank Fred for showing up and
Thanks to you, man.
teaching us now. Like I've learned a lot this podcast, like one of the most instructive ones that I've had. I really thank you for coming.
Thanks a lot for the invitation. Anytime we can keep chatting about synthesizers for many more hours.
Yeah, man, let's do that. Let's do this in the near future. At some point, we should get deeper into the modules and how everything works, and like all this like obscure techniques of wave folding and like this kind of like wave whatever you're doing. Like yeah.
Would shifting, all these things, man. Yeah, let's do it. Definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Gracias, hermanos.
Oh, thank you.
Feliz que...
Boom, man. So yeah, we wrap this up, and thank you for showing up. Boom. See you next week. Yalla.